Second and third period elements. As previously discussed, hydrogen needs one more electron to become stable, so hydrogen makes exactly one bond. Not 0 bonds, not 2 bonds, always one bond. It is never found alone. A few important molecules result from this. Carbon, C, is the nearest element to neon on the periodic table, which is not a gas. Look at the below portion of the periodic table and determine how many electrons carbon needs to become stable. Discuss. Carbon needs to borrow and share 4 electrons to reach the same number of electrons as neon, 10 electrons. As a result, carbon makes 4 bonds with other atoms, one for each electron it wants. Carbon's ability to make 4 bonds allows it to make a huge number of interesting molecules. Carbon is the basis of all life on Earth. Entire chemistry courses and programs are dedicated to just studying carbon chemistry. That field is called organic chemistry. Each carbon atom can bond with 4 hydrogen atoms. The result is CH4, methane. Each covalent bond consists of 2 electrons, one shared from hydrogen and one shared from carbon. The result is that carbon has a total of 10 electrons and is stable. Each of the hydrogen atoms has 2 electrons and is stable. In this schematic diagram of methane, the hydrogen atoms are the red circles and the carbon atom is the blue circle. The electrons from hydrogen are red and those from carbon are blue. Count the total electrons in each atom. Each hydrogen atom has 2 electrons, one from hydrogen and one from carbon. The carbon atom has 10 electrons, 4 of its own electrons that it shares with the hydrogen atoms, 4 shared from the hydrogen atoms, and 2 of its own electrons which are not shared. So carbon has the 10 electrons it needs, and each hydrogen has the 2 electrons that it needs. Here is the space-filling model of methane. Methane is formed in natural processes, including the fossilization of dead plant and animal matter. Large amounts of methane and related molecules are buried in the earth. Molecules made of carbon and hydrogen, like wood, are very flammable. They can be burned to release energy. They are an example of a fossil fuel. Nitrogen needs to borrow and share 3 electrons to reach the same number of electrons as neon, 10 electrons. As a result, nitrogen makes 3 bonds with other atoms, one for each electron it wants. Each nitrogen atom will bond with 3 hydrogen atoms. The result is NH3. This molecule is called ammonia. Each covalent bond consists of 2 electrons, one shared from hydrogen and one shared from nitrogen. The result is that nitrogen has a total of 10 electrons and is stable. Each of the hydrogen atoms has 2 electrons and is stable. In this schematic diagram, the hydrogen atoms are the red circles and the nitrogen atom is the blue circle. The electrons from hydrogen are red and those from nitrogen are blue. Count the total electrons in each atom. Each hydrogen atom has 2 electrons, one from hydrogen and one from nitrogen. The nitrogen atom has 10 electrons, 3 of its own electrons that it shares with the hydrogen atoms, 3 shared from the hydrogen atoms, and 4 of its own electrons which are not shared. So nitrogen has the 10 electrons it needs, and each hydrogen has the 2 electrons that it needs. Here is the ball and stick model of ammonia. Here is the space-filling model of ammonia. Ammonia is critical for creating fertilizer for growing food. Plants need nitrogen to make many types of molecules. While the air is filled with nitrogen in the form of N2, plants can't break the bond between those nitrogen atoms, so they can't use them. Certain bacteria can break that bond, and they promote the growth of plants by living in the soil and making nitrogen available to plants' roots. In the early 1900s, chemical engineers learned how to break the N2 bond and create nitrogen-containing chemical fertilizers. The use of these fertilizers has greatly increased the productivity of farms. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon form covalent bonds to share electrons with other atoms so that each atom becomes stable. For the atoms in the first two periods, the number of electrons each atom needs to achieve stability is shown below. Each shared electron represents a covalent bond, so this is also the number of covalent bonds each atom forms. This pattern is very important and is sometimes remembered as HONC. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the first two rows or periods of the periodic table, the stable number of electrons is either 2 or 10, equaling the number of electrons of the inert elements helium or neon. We can extend that to the third row, in which the inert element is argon, with 18 electrons. Below, circled in purple, are the 13 elements in the first three periods which can form covalent bonds. In this course, the key elements in period 3 that form covalent bonds are phosphorus and sulfur. Phosphorus is directly below nitrogen and also needs to form 3 bonds to be stable. Sulfur is directly below oxygen and also needs to form 2 bonds. This table is extended to include phosphorus and sulfur. Period 2 elements are highlighted in green, period 3 elements are highlighted in orange.